In this video, I'm going to show you one way to work faster with large Excel or CSV files using Power BI. Here's an example of a large file. I downloaded a CSV of the City of Laredo check register information from fiscal year 2013 through present, and that's 143 megabytes. Now let's open that CSV in Excel. Look at how long it's taking. There, it finally opened the file. Now let's change this to a table. Let's check how many records there are. 861,000. What if we want to know the dollar amount for fiscal year 2013 for only this vendor? Let's try that. There's fiscal year 2013, vendor. And now let's get the dollar amount. And look at the lag. We can do that, but as you can see, the software is experiencing some performance issues. So how can we work faster with large files like this? One way is by using Microsoft Power BI Desktop. Let's do that. Let's close this out. And let's open Power BI. Let's go to Get Data, and it's a CSV. There's our CSV. Open. And here's a preview of that CSV. Let's click Transform Data. The first step towards working with large files like this is to remove any columns or information that we don't need, especially columns that are text data type. In other words, most likely text data type columns have letters or a combination of letters and numbers, such as this column. And the way you can check the column data type in Power BI is by these symbols. We can click on it and we see the symbols along with their respective descriptions. Here's a date. This is text, whole number, and so on and so forth. Here's a tip. The columns that are text data types can make working with lots of data really slow. So if you don't need these text columns, by all means, get rid of them. And the way we do that is by highlighting and clicking here. Or you can also right click and click remove. But what if we do need to keep these columns? Then here's one thing that we can do. If the column is full of unique values, if most of the rows in that column are different from each other, then we can consider shortening the length of the column like this. We highlight it. Click Extract. And let's choose first characters. And let's say we want the first 15 characters. Now we have a shorter text string, and that can potentially improve the performance of the report. Or if we want to, we can make this even shorter. Let's limit it to 10. Now, what if the column has lots of rows with the same information, lots of duplicates? Like in this case. miscellaneous, utility, billing, refunds. If we have lots of duplicates, we can create what's called a lookup or a dimension table from this. Let's do that. Let's duplicate the table. Let's rename this DIM for dimension. And let's say vendor name. Now we highlight the vendor name field. We right click, remove other columns. Let's right click again and remove duplicates. Now we have a column of unique vendor names. Now let's add an index column. Now we have a column of unique numeric values that represent each vendor name. Let's go back to the first table and merge queries. Let's highlight the vendor name. Then here, let's select the dimension table we just created and also highlight the vendor name. Let's click OK. Now let's click here, deselect the vendor name, and we're only going to keep this index field. Now we have a numeric representation on our first table of each vendor name. Now that we have that, we can delete this vendor name field. Let's hit close and apply. Now we need to make sure that those two tables are related to each other. We have the index field tied to the index field. Perfect. Now we can hide this field. We don't need that index because all we care about is the vendor name. Now let's do something similar to what we did in Excel earlier. Let's bring in a table for the fiscal year. Let's click on Don't Summarize and drag that onto the values. And let's say only year 2013. Now let's get the amount and drag that onto the values also. And for the vendor, let's add a filter. And let's get the same vendor number. And there's our total. And now we can slice and dice our data all kind of different ways. For example, if we want to see the dollar amount for each vendor, we simply remove this filter and add the vendor in our values. And Power BI will be able to handle that large amount of data much faster than if we were using Excel. And that's one way that we can work faster with large data sets. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, let us know in the comments section below, and we'll see you in the next video.